Hello fellow cinephiles, Film Guru here. So as you saw at the beginning of this video, I'm going to start looking at doing a particular series. So I'm doing a Director Retrospective series. So what I'll be doing is picking certain directors, sort of ones that are known but not really well known, and reviewing all their movies. And reviewing either all their movies if they've done a small amount, or picking certain ones that I really enjoyed and that made their sort of career kind of interesting through the years. The first cab off the rank is Paul Thomas Anderson. I'll be looking at his films. So today I'm looking at his first film, Heartache. This came out in 1998 and stars Philip Baker Hall, John C. Reilly, Gwyneth Paltrow and Samuel L. Jackson. And this is sort of an interesting film to begin with. It's sort of within the noir genre. And if you haven't seen it, this is what it's sort of about. It focuses on Sydney, played by Philip Baker Hall, a veteran gambler in his 60s who still spends his time at the casinos. One particular day he meets John, played by John C. Reilly, a loser with no money at all. He sees him as a son and tries to help him. He takes care of him and teaches him all the tricks of his work. He also helps him to make a relationship with Clementine, played by Gwyneth Paltrow, a young girl who works at the casino as a waitress. But soon something happens that turns their lives upside down. This is a very interesting film in many ways, and it's a great debut film for any director, I think. It really has a lot of essence of Paul Thomas Anderson that he would use later in his career, such as, close-up shots on the face, not a lot of coverage, really interesting characters put into a simple circumstances, and lovable losers in a way, and that's what this film's filled with. And this is what he would use later in his career in a lot of the films he would make. There's something really interesting about this film. It sort of sucks you in from the beginning. There's this great cafe scene that starts the film, and the banter back and forth between John C. Reilly and Philip Baker Hall's characters are really interesting. You learn a little bit about each of them, and it's just a great sort of scene to learn who these characters are. And then it sort of goes through and shows you how Sydney sort of goes about, gambling and what he does, and how he teaches John how to do these things in order to ultimately come up with some money so he can bury his mother. But it sort of looks at how these two guys form a strong bond, a father and son like bond. You learn that Sydney had kids, a daughter and a son, and it's sort of that's how he treats John and Clementine within this film, and I thought that was really interesting. You're not clear about his motives, why he's helping these two young people who've found themselves in difficult situations. But as the film goes on, you start to learn why he's doing this and who he is. And he's not quite what he seems, and I kind of like that. It really draws you into the particular world and the character. It's filled with lovable losers. This is a theme that Paul Thomas Anderson seems to really enjoy, and it makes up a lot of the films he's made through his career. There's something about that, where you see these characters who just can't sort of seem to get out of their own way, but they're sort of lovable and interesting, and you kind of like, even though they make poor decisions and do really bizarre things. Ultimately, I think this film is really well written, and has some great acting. Samuel L. Jackson's solid in this, playing a similar character. It's sort of early in his career, so he hadn't quite done a lot, and he hadn't found his way into the Samuel L. Jackson we all know and love now. But it's just interesting to see him starting out and the choices he made as an actor in this particular film. I think Gwyneth Paltrow is really interesting. She plays against type in this sort of film, and I've never really seen her play a character like this. There's something about the way P.T. Anderson can really take a particular actor and put him into something they've never done before, and he has a real ear for dialogue and has a real eye for creating characters that would really suit particular actors, which I really loved. John C. Reilly's solid. John C. Reilly's really good at playing these sort of lovable loser, down on their luck sort of characters, and I think he's quite solid in this. And I like his performance. I think the person who really steals this film is Philip Baker Hall. He's fantastic in this. He's an actor I've seen as a bit part player, and very rarely do I see him as a lead character in a particular movie. And here he is absolutely fantastic. He's the right age to play this character. He's not quite what he seems. He has layers. There's things going on that you don't quite understand or don't know about him as the film begins. But you really like the fact he's helping these particular two young people. It's like he's been through all these difficult times and terrible things, and he wants to be able to give back in a way. And that's sort of how the film sort of looks at him. He's really cool and elegant and has a real air about him. He's just really fascinating to watch, and he's our eyes through the world, and he's a big draw card for this film. And he's just fantastic to watch in every scene. His choices, decisions, how he reacts to things, how Samuel L. Jackson's character underestimates him and he pays the ultimate price, and that's what I really love. And the character really has an arc. When we first meet him, we don't really know a lot about him. We learn through the film who he is. And towards the end, we learn out he was an old school gangster and gambler, and he isn't a guy to be messed with or screwed over. And you really see him come to life in that and see what he's actually capable of. And I thought he was absolutely fantastic in this film, and I really wish they would put this man in other films as a lead actor, because he's absolutely brilliant. It's just a great testament to P.T. Anderson, who could see by this man would be perfect in this particular role. And there's also an early Philip Seymour Hoffman scene within this, that P.T. Anderson wrote this particular character for him. And this was their first collaboration which would last all the way into The Master. And this is a great example of their first collaboration together. And the character that Philip Seymour Hoffman plays is sort of a smart-ass young gambler, and he's sort of going head-to-head with Philip Baker Hall's character, Sidney. And it's just interesting to see him throw all this stuff at Philip Baker Hall, and Philip Baker Hall's just stone-faced, and it's fantastic to watch. It's great banter, and there's some really great elements in this film that he would later use in his career. And I really loved that. I really love what he's crafted here. It's a great noir, and I'm a big fan of those particular films. It's a modern noir. And like later in P.T. Anderson's career, he really sticks to particular formulas and genres. So whatever genre he's in, he sticks to that. And this is a great example of that as well. And it sort of looks at how they're able to form a classic noir story in the gambling world. I really loved everything about this. I loved the way it's shot. I loved the music used. I loved the sort of ideas that were experimented with in this film. And there's a lot of short and poignant cuts to particular things that we see along the film. And it's just so well written. It just shows how much Anderson is really good at writing these particular films. Everything serves a purpose. Every character is important and has layers and depth within the film. And they're characters we can sort of get behind, even though we might not agree with their choices in the film. They're characters we can just go with along the journey, and I really like that. I just think this is a really great film to start with in the P.T. Anderson sort of catalogue. And it's sort of part of a crime genre. He sort of came out at a similar time in Tarantino with Reservoir Dogs, so it sort of has that sort of feel. There was something about the 90s and the way people made films in the 90s. And it was very crime based. That was a big thing, you know. Other directors did that sort of thing, such as Scorsese with Goodfellas and Casino. P.T. Anderson really slips into that. And he's a director I've just become really fascinated with, especially with Tarantino retiring. I've sort of been drawn to another director who's still around, still making interesting films and doesn't make the same film twice. And I really love that about this director. And he's a director I will follow along the way. Anyway, that's my first video in regards to the Director Retrospective series. I will be continuing on doing the rest of Paul Thomas Anderson films, the next one being Boogie Nights, and then I'll go all the way down to Phantom Thread. My other idea with these sort of videos as well is not only just focus on directors, but looking at actors as well and do acting retrospectives. So I'll pick particular actors and pick their 5 best performances that I think deserve to be talked about, and for people to know these films if they haven't seen them, to go and watch them. Anyway, that's all from me today. Thanks for watching. I hope you did enjoy this video, and I'll be making many more of these along the way. If you did like this video, please hit the subscribe down the bottom. Follow me on Facebook and Twitter. Otherwise, until next time, enjoy the movies.